Welcome to World Walks, a joint production of Firehouse Projects, the Unconservatory, and Cranberry Coast Concerts, supported in part by a grant from the state of Florida and viewers like you. With your hosts, Lilia Fontana, Kurt Whipple, and Marilyn Morales.
Walks before curfew, walks through remote and urban areas, walks in neighborhoods have become escapes from our enclosures of four walls. At times contemplative and in reflective solitude, walking becomes a vehicle for introspection and meditation, facilitating deep thought. We walk in fellowship together with family and friends who have hunkered down together. Whether alone or with companions, walking is a deeply personal activity. In response to the isolation our society has collectively experienced during quarantine, we have launched World Walks, Firehouse Projects, in collaboration with the Unconservatory and Cranberry Coast Concerts, presents this virtual experience inspired by our immediate and increased need to connect with each other. And welcome to World Walks, our series of up-close and personal interviews with artists and educators walking, talking, and creating in their environments. Hi, Kirk.
Hey,
and
Lily.
Marilyn.
She must have had urgent business of state to attend to.
Absolutely. So before we get into our program, we have some people to thank, right?
Absolutely. We want to thank the State of Florida Division of Cultural Affairs for their support of our project, World Walks. And we also wanted to mention to anybody watching, please write to our Governor, Ronald DeSantis, and let him know how important it is that arts funding goes through to support this and other programs like it.
Okay, so Kirk, who was that charming man?
That's our guest today, Mr. John Renfroe, and he is a rostered deacon. I want to get all this right. Rostered deacon in the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America, or ELCA, as he likes to sing. He's music director at Messiah Lutheran Church in Cape Coral, Florida. He's an educator, organist, and humorist. He's also presented Marilyn and myself there in concerts. Our most recent thing was the tribute to Liberace that we did. It was our last gig our last gig before the pandemic hit. We were there, and we had a wonderful crowd who didn't know what was coming up, so it was a good time. And hey, there he is, John. Could you please tell us the piece that you were playing?
Unmute myself.
There you are.
There we are. Okay. Well, that piece was called in English "Deck Thyself, My Soul with Gladness" by Johnny Bach. J.S. Bach. And that piece is one of 18 great chorales that he wrote in the last 10 years of his life. Very mature work. And he takes this chorale, which we sing in a feeling of a two, da, da, ba, and he turns it into a three, into a slow dance to celebrate the presence. And so we have this walking bass. The organ itself is not the organ at my church, but it is the organ at St. Luke's Episcopal Church in Fort Myers, Florida, where we had a virtual members recital through the American Guild of Organists, and I played this piece and one other piece,
which we'll hear a little bit later in the program today, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and but I also thought for those who speak German, we got the English title. Here's the German title of that first piece: Schmücke dich, o liebe Seele, and it's BWV number 654 by Johann Sebastian Bach, deftly played by our guest, Mr. John Renfroe here. Hey, John, this is an opportunity to get inside of your walks, and you were already walking on the organ. You're actually literally playing a walking bass, yes?
Yes, I was.
And tell us a little bit about that, because us pianists, this is kind of an interesting point for us keyboard freaks here. When we plant our feet, they're basically firmly on the ground unless we're playing rock and roll or something, and then our heels are kind of dug in, and we balance ourselves so that we can use the pedals. But it's different for organists, yes?
Yeah, the piano has 3 pedals. The pedal board on the organ is actually 32 pedals, and it's like a keyboard. And so it has its own division. But before I go any further, I have somebody sitting next to me. I'd like to
Yes,
introduce
please
him.
introduce your special guest.
This is my live-in mate for over almost 41 years.
Don't stand for that.
Be careful, John. We're grossly outnumbered already here in the Zoom.
That's true. We are. We've been married almost 41 years, and so this is my wife, Darlene.
Hey there, Darlene.
The pedal has its own keyboard, and it is played like a keyboard, except with your feet.
And again, the interesting thing is that you can't afford to balance yourself with your feet. You can't plant.
No, you can't. Otherwise, you'll be stepping on the pedals and hitting a bunch of really funky notes, and it won't sound very good.
So
I did have one occasion when I played the organ. I had one occasion when I played the organ. It was an adjustable bench, and it kept going down, and my hands were going up like this, and it wasn't a good experience.
Well, and I mean the operative thing here being is that pianists, we put weight on our feet and our heels. Organists have to basically sit all of their weight so that the feet can be free to move, right?
Yes.
See, that's a huge difference, and it's one that organists going to the piano or pianists going to the organ have to maneuver and go, wow, this is very, very different.
Yeah, that is different.
Yeah, so just for those of you out there that think he can play the organ because he plays piano or vice versa, that is not the case here. There's some very specific things.
They're 2 very different instruments, and the technique of playing the 2 different instruments are day and night.
And for those in attendance who don't know, what are all those knobs that look like a star, something out of Star Trek?
Those knobs are called stops, and those are the sounds that the pipes make. So when I pull one of those knobs out, it might be a flute sound, or it could be a trumpet sound. And so they're all different sounds, and they're pitched at different foot levels. So like the piano, the longer the string, the deeper the sound. But on the organ, the longer the footage on the pipe, the deeper the sound. So an 8-foot pipe will sound an octave higher than its 16-foot counterpart, and the 4-foot, and et cetera, et cetera. So those are called stops.
And they're all in multiples of 2. You've got 2-foot, 4-foot, 8-foot, and so forth, right?
Right. And so you pull out a whole chorus of sounds by pulling several of them out at once.
So what is the biggest, most monstrous stop in the world that you've ever seen?
The most monstrous stop I've seen, and I've not experienced the organ myself, but is at Radio City Music Hall, and they actually have a 64-foot pipe.
Whoa!
And the human ear can't even hear the fundamentals because you're talking about 16 cycles per second. So you just kind of feel it. You don't hear it.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
Can I say
I'm in. Yes. Hi, Marilyn.
Hi. How you doing?
I see you were getting some guests for the show today.
Yes.
My mom, my aunt, my mom.
Hi.
And I have a question. I played in because I took organ in BU, and what the teacher didn't tell us is that there was a delay. So when you play a note, it takes some time to come out. and man, it threw me for a loop because I have my hands in the different registers, and I just forgot where my left hand was. I mean it. I mean, that's how bad I was. I had the legs, I had the hands. I turned around, I say, "Can you touch my left hand? Because I don't know where it is." Oh, there it is. Okay. So so can you tell them about the delay, why this happens?
Luckily, most of the organs don't have that, but some of the old organs and some of the old type of actions have that. And I played on one, and I played on one like that in Italy, and it was so bad that I had to tell the director. I said, "Tell me the tempo you want, and then after that, you're going to have to follow me," because there was the delay in the sound, and so sometimes there are some organs that have that. The technical thing, if you have a tubular action, it's kind of like it works the same way as the brakes on your car, and you play it and then you wait and then it plays after you play it. Yeah, that's it's really hard. Most of the organs don't have that delay, thank heavens. But those that do, it's really hard to play.
John, you mentioned that the 64-foot stop is the lowest because below that, the human ear isn't going to be able to appreciate the pitch. And essentially, I think those 64-foot stops are also to kind of give a big feel to the sound as much as that. On pianos, there's a reason why we have the lowest notes on the piano. On a Busendorfer concert grand, there's a C below the lowest A on the piano. Now, there's a reason why they didn't put more notes before that, and that's because that particular C is vibrating at about 16 cycles per second.
Mm-hmm.
Below that, we can't discern the pitch. So people wonder, well, why, could they add more keys? Well, they could, but we'd have to have bigger ears and a different brain to process it, right?
Right. Unless maybe you're a dog or something.
Yeah, or maybe
the higher pitches.
Maybe a whale to appreciate the lower.
Yeah, that's right.
But also, I think everybody also came to see some of the photos that you took on your world walk.
Yes, absolutely. And I had an interesting time. No, I'm waiting for you to roll the photos, but it's interesting. And you speak about whales, and because we kind of start off the segment of the photographs with what I found interesting is the water and the fish. And in talking to John, you said that was a very peaceful time for you in the midst of this chaotic pandemic, that you found solace in looking at your fish tank and going outside to your pond and things like that. So I think that was really cool, and I wanted to start off with those images.
And here we are. There's
the... Yeah, a lot of people walk and see the sunrise, see the sunsets, but Darlene got me for Christmas one year. It started off with a very small pond, but it grew, and I love to sit out here and just listen to the sound of the water and meditate, just by myself and watch the koi. I have 9 koi in there and 2 large algae eaters and a bunch of mosquito fish. But that's my pond, and so this is my walk. Instead of walking out, doing a lot of walks in the neighborhood or beach or the park, I walk out here right at my house. I have a pond. We also have burrowing owls, which are an endangered species, but they're right on my property, and so we watch the owls at the same time. When the pandemic started, I had to say, if I had to be stuck at home with somebody, I couldn't think of anybody to be stuck with than Darlene. Of course, she's stuck with me. But anyway, so I felt like being right at the house, I had a lot of the things right in front of me that I could take advantage of.
And there's another.
And this is the pond at nighttime. And you can see one of those or two of those kois there. And let's see. And there, let's see. Now this looks like South Korea. This when we went to South Korea, Darlene and I got to see some huge koi. I think they had their own zip code. They were so big. But she took us to Jensen Park to see these kois because she knows how much I love looking at these kois. Courtney, what did I just say? Oh, Courtney took us. Our daughter, Courtney. We had a couple of weeks visit there, and so that's where that is from. And that's more pictures of that.
And your daughter, John, your daughter lives there still in South Korea?
She lives in South Korea. She teaches English in a public school.
Oh.
And so she's been there for 7 years now.
Oh.
She's starting out. And that's my aquarium. And I have a discus tank. I have 5 discus and a bunch of other small colorful fish that I can just sit and look at to meditate. And, close up of one of them.
What kind of fish is that?
That's a discus, an orange discus.
Yeah, makes sense. But you wouldn't want to hurl it.
No.
No. Yeah. If I see my neighbors coming in with a fishing line, I know I'm in trouble. There's one of our burrowing owls. When we bought the house, we were told that we had freeloaders, and what? And when they told me what they meant by that, I said, "Oh, this is so cool." And right now they're in the middle of mating season, so they actually have them sitting on the transept of my front door to relax. I've had them sitting on my driveway. I think they've even made a nest under the driveway in the cul-de-sac.
Do they? I guess you don't have any mouse problems.
No, I do not. We do have an explosion of bunnies in our neighborhood, and they do eat the baby bunnies. The owls eat the baby bunnies. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's one just sitting right perfectly in front of our front door. Perfectly balanced between the two sides.
Yes.
I think he's looking through the window saying, "Got mice."
This isn't, but we're back in South Korea. This building, the round building, is particularly interesting. Courtney took me there. It was built specifically for the meeting summit of the International Commission on Climate Control back when President Bush Sr. was president. And so all the world leaders met in this building. It's a phenomenal building. And I got to sit, they let me sit where George Bush sat in the meeting, and I think I had a picture in there somewhere of Courtney standing where they all gathered to take their photo opportunity shots. And so Courtney stood where he stood to take the photos. And as I just in South Korea, the buildings they build up, not out. The population of South Korea is probably about 3 times the size of that of Chicago.
Wow.
But they build up and they build into the mountains. And that's just a picture of the many high rises and buildings.
Is that Seoul?
This is Busan.
Oh, okay.
All these pictures are from Busan, South Korea.
Okay.
How long would it take for you to walk from Busan to Seoul?
Well, It's about an hour flight. So
Flight. Ah. So, huh. So perhaps several days.
probably so.
Got it. Okay. Gives us an idea of the geography where you were.
Yeah. This my next to the last day. Um, Courtney took me to one of the largest Buddhist sites called monastery called Bumasa, and an interesting experience with Bumasa. I did not go into any of the temples. There were like 4 temples around the Bumasa area, and they have the temple for light, the temple for nature, the temple for different things. And we were there early in the morning, and I sat out in the courtyard where this picture was taken. Is like in the middle of all of this. To the left of that picture is a large monastery, but we sat there and we listened to all of the services, for lack of a better word, all of their they were going on at the same time, but they couldn't hear each other from building to building. And Courtney and I look over, we got goosebumps because they happened to be chanting at the same temple and at the same keys. And the temple that they were chanting at was the temple that the trees were swaying to, but yet they could not hear each other. And it was just an almost out of body experience. It was a very, very deep religious experience when I was there. Marvelous time.
I'm saying it sounded absolutely transcendent.
It was transcendent, absolutely. That's another one of the temple, one of the temples. And it's. I wish Courtney were on the air. She could talk about these in more details, but you can't see them. There's a north, south, east, and west of the, I guess, of the scare off the bad spirits.
Well,
and she could tell you the name of the faces. Well, you can't see them in that picture anyway. But these are all the ornate. I was struck by how ornate the pictures were, or how ornate the buildings were, I should say.
And we understand that Courtney's probably sleeping right now.
Yes, yeah, it's 13 hours difference. So it's what about, what time is it here?
5:30 in the morning for her, right?
Yeah, 5:30 in the morning for her. So, and that's me standing in front of one of the temples that Courtney took that picture.
Okay, we surmised, and there she is.
And there's Courtney, our selfie. But notice in the background, notice the ornate sculpture, the design of the buildings.
Yeah, every last little detail of every last little piece.
Yeah, just so.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, they are beautiful. Yeah. There's Darlene chowing down on breakfast at our hotel.
Looks great.
Cost of living is very interesting at the hotel. Courtney found us this hotel to stay at. It had a washer dryer combination. It was a suite, and the restaurant there, the suite cost us $50 a night. Wow. And this is a brand new hotel.
Wow,
this, I had to take a picture of this. In South Korea, they don't know how to eat a hamburger. And so this is the guide to eating a hamburger. You pick it up and you eat it with your hands. You don't cut it with your knife and fork. And this was on one of the napkins, and I had to take a picture of this. I thought it was entertaining.
Yeah, that's.
And the bridge in the back is the bridge connects Busan to Hyundai Beach, and it's the longest bridge in South Korea. And that's a close up of Courtney. We were on the boat. I mean, of Darlene. We were on a long boat cruise here.
Wonderful.
Yeah, Silver Bridge, yeah. And there's 3 of us together on our trip. This is before the pandemic.
Yeah. Sigh.
Not long before. That's our son John. John is works with sales and tickets and does the computer work with the Chicago Lyric Opera. And part of our trip, we went to the opening night of the Lyric Opera. We got to see The Marriage of Figaro.
And we understand when he's not selling tickets and handling direction that he's a fine trombonist as well.
He is a very fine bass trombonist, very good. He has job security at the Chicago Lyric. They had to close down when the pandemic started, and their whole season was canceled because of the pandemic.
Yep.
And John just got on the phone and successfully started talking people into donating the monies for their tickets for the Opera House as a tax deduction. And so he saved them well over $30,000, well over that, just talking people into donating their tickets for the year. So he helped the Lyric Opera kind of float through the pandemic. So he's not going anywhere. They're very happy with him.
I bet.
Hopefully he got a raise.
Yes, as a matter of fact, he did.
Well,
yeah.
I believe in equal time here too, so I'm going to go back here and give you a chance to talk about your other child who's a fantastic cellist.
Well, Courtney is she's teaching. She's not allowed to teach cello per se in South Korea yet, or in Busan, because her visa is only for teaching and teaching English. So if she does teach, it has to be unofficial. Otherwise, if they catch her teaching cello, she could be deported. But she is working on her green card so that she can do other jobs.
So how about that for a CNN news story? Deported for playing cello.
Yeah, right.
And they would say, was she that bad? How can you be that bad that they'll deport you? No, it was a wacky governmental thing.
Yeah, exactly. She bought a cello over there so she could practice. Now these next pictures, our chapter of the American Guild of Organists celebrated their 60th anniversary. And to celebrate that, one of the parishioners of one of the members bought this kit. It's like a $10,000 kit. It's called an orgle kit. And the purpose of the orgle kit is to encourage young children to learn how to play the organ and talk about the organ, how the organ works and how it's made. So that picture was a bunch of keys. There is the orgle kit put together. It took this class of children probably about 40 minutes to build this little organ. And you got 2 ranks of flutes. A rank is a complete set of pipes for one stop. And so you see the 2 sets of flutes there. And they're 4-foot and 2-foot flutes. And the children are playing at the keyboard. And the young lady in the back is pumping the organ so that it has air. And so when we got done building this organ, we took them into a room with a much larger organ, and you could see light bulbs coming on. It's like, this organ works the same way as the organ we built. I said, yes, it does. And of course, this is a tracker instrument, what we call a tracker organ, which means there's a direct link between the key and the pipe. So when you press the key down, the wind goes into the pipe and the pipe speaks. And these children are really having a wonderful time. I had a wonderful time with these kids.
What a great way to connect from putting it together to the sound out of it. It's a wonderful thought. They won't be building any piano tracker kits anytime soon. That's
Probably not.
yeah. That the strings are under such tension that it would be dangerous for kids to do that.
Yes, yes.
And
And there's another picture. And you can talk all the technical jargon until the sun sets, but when you experience it and you put it together, you see how it works, you hear how it works, and it's an entirely different dimension to experience it on that level.
and you could even practically hear what she's thinking. Come on, dude, it's my turn.
Yep, that's exactly right. So, and this is one of my colleagues. Playing, one of the tunes on the organ. And some of the kids in this workshop actually brought some of their music from their piano lessons. And they said, can I play this on the organ? And so they did. And they were simple pieces that they could play. They enjoyed playing them, hearing different sounds.
Fantastic. What a really remarkable project. And our final photo.
This is the organ at my church. This is what we call hybrid. It's a combination of pipe and electronic. And you can see all of the stops that we talked about earlier are lit. Those are the ones that are actually turned on. The little round buttons are called presets. So if I'm playing along and I want to change the sounds, I press those buttons and the sounds change. And if my hands are too busy, I can do the same thing with my feet, with the knobs on the buttons on the bottom. The organ pedal is well lit as a result of all the bulbs burned out, and I couldn't find the correct replacement bulbs, being that this organ is from the Netherlands. So I went down to the pet shop and bought an aquarium light. Put the aquarium light underneath it, and it's a Bluetooth, and I teased my pastor. I can change colors. I could, all we need is a little smoke thing for me to come to the organ,
So do tell us too, because we want to make sure that that people use this opportunity. Could you tell us a little bit about the gas and the brake and the emergency brake here? What are those for the layperson?
Okay, the first three pedals that are open is one for each of the keyboards. There's three keyboards called organ divisions. The top division is the swell division. The middle one is the main organ, which is the grate, and the bottom is the choir. These first three pedals go to those keyboards by themselves. The last pedal to the right is what we call a crescendo pedal. And what that does, when you press it, when you open it up, it just simply adds stops as you're playing. So you can get louder and louder, and you can open the organ up almost full blast, I'll say, with the crescendo pedal.
And so literally, when you give it the gas, it gets louder.
It gets louder by adding more stops, yes.
There you go. Well, I must say, John, that you have an impressive organ, sir.
Oh, well, thank you. And I play it in public.
And I don't say that. I don't have the opportunity to say that to many men. But in your case, it's quite obvious from all the photos, So
now, one quick story I got to tell on Kurt. When we had right before the pandemic,
I'm afraid that's all the time we have now, folks. Thank you for joining.
They did a Liberace show.
Yes, we did.
The day before, they set everything up, and on the top of the organ, Kurt sneaked a little pink flask, and he set it on top of the organ, and I did not even realize it until we were halfway through the service, and I looked over, and of course, our pastor is really a funny guy. He said, it's time for communion. I said, no, I have my own. But anyway.
Well, thank you for sharing those photos, John. We're gonna take a moment here. I'll have to find it to share with people one more piece from you, and you can perhaps set this up for us. The German title is Wer nur den lieben Gott lässt walten from Orgelbuchlein. Could you tell us what?
Well, it's the English title is "If Thou Must Suffer, God to Guide Thee," and the Orgelbuchlein translates as "Little Organ Book" that Bach wrote in his earlier years, and people often refer to it as the liturgical year. He wrote preludes for each Sunday of the year in our tradition. So, and this piece happens to be out of that book. It's a short piece.
So they're pieces for little boys to play on their small organs. Yes.
No, they're not quite so simple sometimes.
Well, let's give it a listen. And by the way, you should point out too, these are available on YouTube.
Thank you.
Another little segment here, and we wanted to share with you. Let me see if I could pull this up. This is World Walks, walking with funny animals. Oh, wait a minute.
Not those animals.
The monkeys?
No, the animals.
Oh, sorry. Right. I'm sorry. It's these animals. Of course it is.
Yes.
Everybody sing along.
I can't figure that one out.
Hey, look what I can do. Look what I can do, guy. Get away from me. Hey, baby, you want some lettuce?
You should hang out with sheep or whatever that was. We get that at night, that little bandit, and goes to your house, Kirk.
Marilyn's feeding him.
What is this with the hind legs?
How long would it take you from wherever you are to walk to Hialeah?
Say that again. You were choppy.
How long would it take you to walk to Hialeah, Lily?
There you go. I haven't a clue. Haven't a clue. Unless it'll probably be shorter if I jump on the palmetto and walk.
Well, if you could.
Sagging through the streets. Then I'd probably get run over.
Yeah, well, I mean, I knew a guy in Hialeah who got lost there. He ended up walking there for 65 years.
Bah!
Well, and John, how long would it...
But I want to say hi to one of my high school classmates who's been watching us. Hi, Dave Tribby. Hello.
Is Dave available? I'm asking him to
There he is.
unmute.
Dave. Where are you? There you are.
Yeah, I'm here in Sunnyvale, California. I met John when we were in 8th grade chorus. And he was the accompanist and also a very fine tenor. And I have to admit, at that time, I was still an alto. But next year, we were in the Bonnie Lads and Lassies together. We would go around singing at local events. A group of, we had about a double octet.
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
And then by the time I got to high school, I was a bass. But he was still a tenor.
Yeah, there we go.
Yes.
She's another one.
Oh, sorry.
Another one of our musical world walkers, Katie Ketchum.
Yeah, and I really loved your organ playing, John. That was just beautiful.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, and I stayed in the car because the speaker's better in the car than in my phone, so it sounded really good.
There she is. Hi, Allie.
I'm just not in a visible mode.
Okay.
Another one of our world walkers. Thank you for joining us.
But I've enjoyed. I've watched the whole thing and I've enjoyed it very, very, very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any closing remarks, John, about your walks, your music, your lovely wife and children?
I feel very fortunate to have such a wonderful family as Darlene, John David, and Courtney. And I feel honored to have known the Whipples for such a while. The first time I met Marilyn was at my daughter's high school, and she looked so young for her age. The orchestra director was trying to get everybody to settle down, and Marilyn was sitting at the piano and starting to play a little bit. And I started to walk over to her and say, I thought she was a student. I started to walk over to her and say, please get off the piano. And then she ripped into like a Rachmaninoff piece. And like, that's no high school student. So that's where we first met. And
I was stealing every inch of time I could to practice the piece.
Yeah, that was really a funny experience. Both Kurt and Marilyn are wonderful pianists. They had placed in the the Tchaikovsky? Was it the Tchaikovsky competition that you all placed in?
Well,
the Van Cliburn.
I performed in the Tchaikovsky, and Marilyn played in the Jose Iturbi in Spain. That was at the same time.
Well, like they placed like internationally. These people place like they're not bad pianists.
Well, thank you, sir.
They're pretty good.
And thank you for allowing us to leave feathers and glitters all over your church floor.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
that was great. We had a wonderful time. Indeed, it was a great concert.
Well, fantastic. Well, I tell you what, I think that's all the time we have. Right? And we're going to have to close out now. We have to thank the state of Florida Division of Cultural Affairs, and so on behalf of the Unconservatory.
And Firehouse Projects.
And Cranberry Coast Concerts.
We wish you wonderful walks from wherever you are in the world.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. See you later.
Bye.
Thanks, John.